Hey, this is Aaron Norton, and this is my trip to China. This is the hotel that we stayed at. Great, nice, actually pretty Western too. And I love this picture because it shows really how superstitious the Chinese people are. Before I left, my parents had warned me that the Chinese people are very superstitious, and as you can see, there's no fours on this elevator. And that's because the Chinese believe that 4 is a very unlucky number. Of course, I had to put our favorite bar on there. This trip wouldn't have been complete without it. Now on to our first day in China, and the first thing that popped out to me as truly different, other than the building architecture of course, was how many beautiful cars there were. Hondas, BMWs, Audis, but no crappy cars on the road at all. And Andy told us that that was mainly due to how expensive license plates were. And they made the license plates that expensive, they being the government, because they wanted to keep people off the roads. And of course, speaking of keeping people off the roads, they'd prefer keeping them in the bike lane, and I thought the bike lane was so cool. You gotta love this picture. Andy said this was the best dragon in the garden, and man, this dragon looks cool. Definitely something I was happy I took a picture of. And speaking of cool things, I would love to have these chairs in my house. How cool would that be? I mean, everyone would want to sit in these. And my nerdy self took over when I saw this. You don't see game stores like this in the US. This is definitely something I kind of expected to see in Japan, never expected to see in China, but super cool nonetheless. This is a picture of our first Chinese meal, and man, it was good. Not as good as the food we had with Raymond and the rest of the workers, but this was some good food. Here's a Chinese citizen taking some Chinese pride in his flag. This is something we were really proud of. While we were touring the facilities and the manufacturing plant for the paper company we visited, we found the one or the few made in the United States items, and we were all very proud of it. This is the first person I want to thank, and that's Dr. Forrest. Whether it's through planning, which I'm sure he helped Dr. Jackson with, or through his liveliness, or his jokes, or stories, or even by, as you can see in this photo, his actions, wearing his commie cap. Dr. Forrest, thank you. You really made this trip that much better. We met these two in the Shanghai bar, our favorite bar. The guy on the right's from the US, and the other guy in the middle is from Spain. And this really was the first time I realized that China is kind of a melting pot in a way. A lot different than the US, but a lot of people from all over come in to do business in China. And speaking of business, us looking super businesslike before our meeting in the government office of Wuxi. I think we all looked pretty good. And speaking of looking good, here's our favorite person while we were going to the Turtle Island, trying to take a picture of us. Some random Chinese lady. She really wanted a picture of us foreigners, and she wasn't very discreet about it. And by the end of the tour of Turtle Island, we decided to confront her, and she just wanted a photo with the girls. And deep down, although the girls were kind of freaked out, I think they really liked the attention. And speaking of the girls, here's our 5 lovely ladies. Starting from the left, Dr. Jackson, who really made this trip happen, and thank God for her. And moving on to our right, Rachel, Stephanie, the twins, and then Cindy. Sanji, and of course Sierra. And here's just a great photo of Dr. Forrest in his panda hat. I couldn't pass putting this one on here. And now to my favorite part of the trip, the Grand Buddha. This wall is at the very front to keep out evil spirits. As I said earlier, the Chinese people are very superstitious and believe that evil spirits can only travel in straight lines. And according to our tour guide, Andy, this wall is the longest of its kind. Here's a good view of the Buddha from far away, to give you some perspective of how big it is. This is by far one of my favorite Buddhas of the trip. As you can see on his hand, there's a kid doing a handstand with one arm. That's impressive. But it's just had a bunch of children on there, and they're actually babies, I believe. It's kind of a weird Buddha, but really, really cool. I'm proud to say I gave this Buddha a high five. I love this photo. Seeing double Buddhas. And now to the real Buddha, and man, he's big. I was really happy I got to go to the base of the Buddha. It was cool being able to touch his feet. This is definitely something that not many people can say they've done. I stole this idea from Dr. Forrest, but it really is a cool photo. You get to see how big the Buddha really is at his base. Just another photo of how big the Buddha is. This is definitely my favorite photo in the whole entire trip. You would never see this in the United States, but only in China would you see an error message on a screen in Shanghai. This was in the Shanghai Museum, and I just love those masks. Cool opera masks. Of course, I had to put the McDonald's bag in Chinese in there. But this brings me to one of my other favorites, the train. Man, the train was very, very cool. Something I wish the United States could get. And let me tell you, 298 kilometers is hauling. Picture of the club scene in Beijing. Definitely one of the most fun nights I've had in a very long time. It was very fun. And this is Stephanie doing her Chinese photo stance. For some odd reason, all the Chinese people like to take photos in a certain stance like this one. We thought it was very funny. This is actually a really good example of it. This is the Emperor's throne. Very, very cool. And I loved the meaning of this. I believe it was the meaning of two different people coming together. I don't remember the exact meaning, but it's the Chinese symbol for marriage. Very meaningful, very cool. Gotta love the English. Very well written, huh? Found this guy on the wall. Random Indian guy with a very funny shirt, needless to say. Some more impressive English. And of course our favorite drink of the whole entire trip, some Tsingtao. It was nice to run into an American-made item like ketchup after being deprived of it for so long. It had been about day 6, and man, I was so happy to see ketchup. This Chinese worker was showing us how they make jade and the items they make with jade. Basically how they sculpture it, and it's very interesting, very cool process. This is a good photo of the pearl factory that we visited while in China. Which brings me to the second person I'm thankful for, and that's this guy on the left, the Chinese guy. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually Fernando. Fernando is a super nice guy. Everyone made the group, and Fernando was part of that group, and he kept up the liveliness. He's a really generous guy, and I'm glad he came along for sure. Here's Sierra. I'm thankful she came on the group. Everyone made the group great, and although she was quiet sometimes, she still had some funny things to say. And you're also probably wondering why I have this random Chinese guy in 2 photos back to back. Well, the next one's also him. And that's because he was trying to look like an artist of mine. Actually, I really like the artist. His name's Stevie Aoki. And I'm a big, big, big fan of Stevie Aoki. And the first thing I said to him when I saw him was, "You look like Stevie Aoki." And he knew exactly who I was talking about. And he was really happy I compared him to it. And he said that's actually what he was aiming for. And I thought that was hysterical. And of course, here's Stevie Aoki. He kind of looks like him, he's missing the beard, but hey, I thought it was really cool either way. You're probably wondering why this photo's in there, and actually this photo is very special to me because this is the exact same location that my mom and dad took a picture in. And because it's so similar to this picture, I really wanted to put it in there. Kind of symbolism is like, my parents have been here and now I've been here, and this is the picture 20 years later. And of course, my favorite thing in the whole world, pandas! I just love pandas. They're awesome. And I'm kind of jealous of Dr. Forrest getting this panda, whatever it is. But I really wish I had gotten one, because it is freaking awesome. And here are the famous pandas from the Olympics. These guys were shown while the Olympics were going on, kind of like icons for the Olympics. The Peking duck chef, when Dr. Forrest, being his normal self, and the entertainment that we enjoyed while we ate the Peking duck. This is very entertaining, very cool, something you won't see in the United States, that's for darn sure. The one thing that I kind of random, but I really liked was the Chinese traffic lights. I mean, I would love for the US to have a countdown until it turned yellow. Give me a little bit of time to know when it's going to turn yellow. Maybe I need to speed up or something, but anyway, I just think it was really cool how their traffic light system worked. Also, I loved how big their stop people were at traffic lights. We never really understood why they were so much bigger and muscular looking than the United States stop guys, but they are. This is a great photo of the Shanghai skyline. Love it. I'm just going to let the music run from here on out. Let the photos do the talking for themselves. Except for this one last bit. Matt never really paid attention to these signs, did he? One last thing before I end this photo story is I'd like to say thank you, Dr. Jackson. Really, thank you for everything you did, putting it all together. Just everything. The trip was amazing while we were there, before the class. Everything was great, and if I could, I'd do it all over again. I'd do it 1,000 times. Thanks for the greatest experience of my life, and I appreciate everything. Thanks once again, Dr. Jackson.
오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자 밤이 오면 심장이 뜨거워지는 여자 그런 반전 있는 여자 나는 선어해 낮에는 너만큼 따사로운 그런 선어해 커피 식기도 전에 원샷 때리는 선어해 밤이 오면 심장이 터져버리는 선어해 그런 선어해 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 hey. 그래 바로 너 hey. 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 hey. 그래 바로 너 hey. 지금부터 갈 때까지 가볼까 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 에이 섹시 레이디 오빤 강남스타일 에이 섹시 레이디 정숙해 보이지만 놀 땐 노는 여자 이때다 싶으면 묶었던 머리 푸는 여자 가렸지만 웬만한 노출보다 야한 여자 그런 감각적인 여자 나는 선어해 점잖아 보이지만 놀 땐 노는 선어해 때가 되면 완전 미쳐버리는 선어해 근육보다 사상이 울퉁불퉁한 선어해 그런 선어해 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 hey. 그래 바로 너 hey. 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 hey. 그래 바로 너 hey. 지금부터 갈 때까지 가볼까 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 에이 섹시 레이디 오빤 강남스타일 에이 섹시 레이디 위는 놈그 위에 나는 놈 베이베 베이베 나는 뭘 좀 아는 놈 위는 놈그 위에 나는 놈 베이베 베이베 나는 뭘 좀 아는 놈 You know what I'm saying 오빤 강남스타일